Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, this is like mini episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, who's swinging in a metroidvania with me tonight.
This is Blair Farrell from comicbookvideogames.com, and I love showing Electro what's what.
And this is Vincent Goodwin from the Some of My Friends Read Comics podcast, and I wish it was $20.99 and not $20.23.
Okay, I'm okay. I like that idea too, except I'm pretty sure our $20.99 won't have the futuristic that Marvel has.
I mean, it's overrun by capitalism and,
we'll have that.
Corporations, but they have better drugs that don't seem to have negative side effects. So that seems like probably better. I don't know.
We won't have that part, I'm sure. I'm pretty positive we will not be at that part of it, at least. So we are here to talk about a game that I barely knew existed and was told to. Well, actually, previous co-host of the show, Michael Hughes, had originally talked to me about this years ago. Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions for DS, developed by Kryptonite Game, which is not the same game. Which came out for DS, came out in 2010. Is not the same game as the game for PS3, 360 in that era. It's a completely different game.
Yeah, to the point where it's missing characters.
Missing one character.
Yeah, we're down one Spider-Man. The voice cast has been shuffled around a little.
That's right. Who's in the cast? Because was it Christopher Daniel Barnes was one of the Spider-Men in the PS3?
So in the main game, NPH was Amazing Spider-Man. Josh Keaton was Ultimate Spider-Man. Christopher Daniel Barnes was Spider-Man Noir, and Dan, I can't remember his last name, from Spider-Man: The Amazing Friends, was $20.99. In this one, Josh Keaton moves to Amazing, Christopher Daniel Barnes, and Dan stay the same.
Was Christopher Daniel Barnes, was he... I know he was Eric from Little Mermaid, that's right. And was he and Greg Brady on Brady Bunch? And
Spider-Man was Spider-Man the 90s show, and he did a few guest spots on Ultimate Spider-Man as Spider-Knight and Ultimate Electro there as well. I think a few others as well.
Okay, cool. I remember being thrown because I found out he was Greg Brady in the Brady Bunch movies, and I remember my friends telling me that, and I was like, "What?" It's like, just picture like Peter Parker saying, like, "You're a really groovy chick, Mary Jane," and I'm like, "Oh, that's exactly that same voice." Okay, cool.
Okay,
but it is a voice acted game on a DS in 2010,
2010.
Yeah.
Came out the same time as the main version came out. This was just like because the DS was such a different system, so you got unique DS ports. And like on the cover of this game, it's the same cover except it doesn't have Ultimate Spider-Man in the back corner, where the regular version has $20.99, Amazing, Noir, and then Ultimate.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that. I remember when like the PS3 and Xbox games were coming out, they were I think I remember reading online and they were doing like a rollout of like what's going to be, there's going to be 4 Spider-Man, what's the next one? And it was like Noir, and I'm like, Noir, that's a fun deep cut. Like he's only been in like 5 or 10 issues of comics, period. That's cool. What's gonna be the last one? And then they said Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm like, I mean that's kind of the same. I know it's not the same as Amazing Spider-Man, but I felt disappointed by that for the PS3 360 game, so I'm okay with him getting excised.
Noir is that he's not? I thought he was more common. I didn't realize he's
no. It's only like a mini series or 2, if that.
Cool.
At that point, yeah, because by the time Spider-Verse, the comic series came out, which
that's
2016, somewhere around there. He had only been in like 10 issues, and then like a lead up to issue. He'd only been like an 11. I mean, but to be fair, like Noir has been in very little. Spider-Gwen had also been like only like 30 issues before the movie. So like they're pretty new characters. They're not like well trodden at all. So David Hein, I think, created them. If that's correct. Does that sound right? I think.
I tried to look up the Spider-Verse comic, but it did not work out well.
So fun fact, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, the PS3 360 game, is actually what led to Spider-Verse. Because they either hired or consulted Dan Slott, who was the Spider-Man writer at the time, to help write with the game. And then he went back to Marvel. Was like, "Yo, they're doing this thing where all these multiversal Spider-Men team up. We should maybe put that in the comic." And then they put it in. Slott wrote that in the comics, and whatever that was. And then the movie was 2018. So this game, and I guess the DS game also, directly contributed to a Oscar-winning movie. So you got
that's cool. I actually really like Spider-Verse the comic. I've been wanting to cover it on this show for years. I just haven't gotten it. I think
we're going to end up doing it on our podcast too. Some of my friends read comics, but I don't.
Hit me up. Could you give me an excuse to cover it twice? So hit me.
I will say, because I know, that's kind of like the lead up to, but I can always never forget in the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, they kind of did the Spider-Verse decades and a half before this, as they had like Ben Reilly and Spider-Man and Armored Spider-Man, who was kind of like Tony Stark, and the Six-Armed Spider-Man, and like an actor. And that was like the kind of the big Spider-Verse crossover, like the finale of Spider-Man, the animated series.
Did they meet Stan Lee at the end too? I know. I think might have. I don't know.
Yeah, because they go to the universe of Spider-Man, who's the actor, and he's like, "Oh, in my universe, I'm an actor on a show based off this comic, which is inspired by you." Mm-hmm. And then he gets to swing around with Stan Lee.
Yeah, because that had the Armored Spider-Man too. That I think if Uncle Ben didn't die, he would have turned into like an Iron Man type Spider-Man.
Yeah, it was essentially just like Tony Stark, and Gwen Stacy was his wife.
The only time Gwen Stacy appeared in that cartoon.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I need to read more Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this game, I remember when Shattered Dimensions came out, I played it. I enjoyed it. I was always a big fan of the console version, but I had no interest, nothing about the DS version. And then, as I said earlier, Mike had mentioned that you should play this. And I was like, one day I'll get to it. Because I was aware it was a Metroidvania title, which is one thing that makes it special. But it just was one of those things that I was like, I don't have time to play. It might be too long. And then randomly on Christmas Eve 2022, I had to work that night, and my job was I knew it was going to be slow. So what I did is I had my laptop next to me, and I was just while I'm sitting on call waiting for stuff to happen, because Christmas Eve I wasn't going to call anybody. They didn't answer me when I did. So my job was to sit there and be available. So and nothing was happening. I was the only person on. I just played Spider-Man, this game, all day, off and on, in between work. It wasn't much of work. And I beat this game in a day. So that's what led to this being on the show, because I'm like, well, I know work's going to be slow because it's Christmas Eve and I'm the only one on. They're like, yeah, it's going to be dead. We just need somebody to be on the calls and take every call that comes in. I'm like, you got it. And yeah, so and then I was like, well, we should record it. If I'm going to play it, I have an issue where if I play something, I want to record about it. So that's how this happened.
Yeah, I had heard about this game randomly by listening to a podcast, and one of the fans wrote in letters about like either their favorite Metroidvanias or favorite Spider-Man games. I can't remember the topic. And they mentioned this game, and I was like, a Spider-Man Metroidvania on DS? That sounds wild. And so I bought it like in 2017. It was actually ended up being Chris Baker, who has like superhero.vg, I think is his website. And he had a whole video on it. I'm like, this looks really intriguing. Because, it's a thing, where you're like, people tend to not care about licensed games in general. They're kind of like a lesser than game kind of genre, although I'm very much interested in them. And then the portable ports of said games are also like another circle of like, nobody really cares about this. Like, they do, but they don't. I'm interested in stuff like, what is the Assassin's Creed DS game like? Or what is the James Bond DS game like, GoldenEye DS or something like that? But like, it's a weird circle. And then to hear like, oh, Shattered Dimensions is a Metroidvania on DS that I wouldn't have given like two thoughts about. Like, well, now suddenly I'm interested.
This is actually the second instance of it too, because Web of Shadows was kind of the prototype. It's not, I don't think it's very good, because the way the map works, because the map in this, it fills out like a Metroid game, even the squares. But in Web of Shadows, it's just like weird blocks, and it's really hard to not navigate, and it's also really hard. And the only villains you fight are like super symbiotes, but it's from the same developer. This is probably one of the games that was a catalyst for me making comicbookvideogames.com.
Oh.
Because when Shattered Dimensions came out, I was kind of burned on licensed games a little. So I was like, this seems very gimmicky. And then a year later, I came to it. And then I was researching just about, because I have an idea in my brain. I was like, I'm going to make a website, I think, about superhero video games. And I was just at my crappy job, and I was on Wikipedia. And I just saw this article about, oh yeah, the DS version is like this. And I was like, wait, this is a Metroid game with Spider-Man, and absolutely no one's talking about it. So someone has to do that. So that person became me for the better part of 10 years. 11 now this year.
That's hilarious, though, that people weren't like championing this, because like I remember, like maybe it was just a few years later, like Hotel Transylvania for 3DS is also a Metroidvania. I'm like, well, then I'm checking out Hotel Transylvania for 3DS. But then this one still somehow like left the radar, and maybe that was just, it was too early.
I think it was on, when did the 3DS come out?
2011.
So yeah, it was on the cusp of, like, the DS was red hot, and I think this is when it was starting to cool down a little. Also, piracy was getting really big. Yeah. So
this is on my multi-cart.
And a lot of the licensed games too, like, because there's some really interesting Spider-Man games. Like Spider-Man 3 is largely touch control based, and Ultimate Spider-Man has some really cool use of touchscreen with like Venom and Spider-Man could play completely different.
Oh, cool.
But then there's also, it was also weird, not great games, but so you wouldn't be remiss for kind of just like missing this, as you probably just like dismiss it like a lot of people, because it's like the Sega MCU games where they have 4 ones of varying quality and then they get it right with Captain America, but by that point you've been burned one too many times.
Yeah, and they just shut down, and that Captain America game's great.
That's from the Next Level, right? Is it the team that makes Luigi's Mansion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Captain America game made in Canada.
Yeah, but at the time, and I must have just been not paying attention, because just a few years later, because the Thor DS game got a lot of hotness. I remember people being like, the console game's not too hot, but the Thor one's pretty good by Way Forward. I remember that.
Yeah, the Thor game's good. Kryptonite has made a few good games. I haven't played many of them. Like, this was my first game I played by this developer. And I only played this because it was Metroidvania, and I'm just like, well, I love Spider-Man. And DS is one of those libraries that I've skipped completely. Like, before I played this, I'm going to look up some reviews real quick, and I was trying to figure out what game I wanted to play. And I went and found a review from Let Your Playground, and they're like, it's Blair! And it was Blair on the review, on the video review on YouTube.
Yeah, it was Bless's Victor Lucas. I think he just let people do. He used to have a segment on Let Your Playground called Buried Treasure, and he kind of resurrected that for his YouTube channel. And he was like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "This one is the ultimate buried treasure that no one's talking about."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm glad I got to do that video, because I'm not that great on camera. Vic makes it look so easy.
It's fine. I don't go on camera, so I can't really speak to how I need to make YouTube videos, but I have not gone down that road.
Yeah, I didn't go on camera either when I was on YouTube. Yeah,
I will be. I want to 100%. I just haven't gone down that road, because then I don't want to add video editing to what my already complicated life is like. So
yeah,
maybe when I get paid. If I get paid for doing this, then I might. But till then, I'm not ready. But no, this game is it's broken up into 3 different Spider-Mans. You have, we said, Noir, 2099, amazing. And the whole idea is, I think, probably the same as, I don't remember Shared Dimension, the main console version, but Mysterio has a tablet that then ruptures the dimensions. And the way this works is you pretty much will travel between, each one has their own little map. And as you travel between the maps, you'll have different points that connect to the other Spider-Man, and you'll play as the other Spider-Man. Like, you'll play as Noir, but Noir doesn't have the web slinging thing at first. So he can only jump off walls. He can't climb walls. Like, you have different things that each character has that they pick up on. Like, Noir picks up the ability to sense things that the other ones don't pick up. And then eventually they can get other abilities.
Yeah, it runs into that Metroid problem where you kind of have to just go with it for the video gameness of it, because it's like, why is there a Spider-Man? I don't think they never give like an in-universe like, oh, the rupture caused him to like his sticking powers knocked out. It's just like, he just doesn't have it. Why? Because it's a video game and you kind of have to roll with it.
Yeah,
why can 2099 only glide starting out?
Yeah, and he can't do any web powers. I mean, it worked. I mean, it's kind of a basic video game, like in that case, that's just really go around, beat up enemies, and then explore this map. But since you have a DS screen, like, it makes good use of the bottom screen that you have your map all the time. You can just see, and it does a good job. Like, if you got an item here, it'll show you what rooms have items, and it'll show you what rooms had an item that you didn't grab. So it was easy to go back. I actually 100% of this game, which I never do for this show. Never. Well, 100% of the main map. I didn't do all the extra stuff. Like,
and if you want to challenge yourself too, you can turn all that off. Like, there's various option sliders where you can change the difficulty of the enemies. You can turn that off if you just want to, go in blinds, which I appreciate a lot.
I had it on easy for the combat and medium for the map, where it would show the map as I explored. It would show me the item, but it didn't show me the whole map from the beginning.
Yeah, I played with the map fully open from the beginning for quickness of the show, but I think that it made it felt less like a Metroidvania to me, because I'm like, this is the map. This is just a 2D platform. What are you talking about? So I don't feel like it's very much of a Metroidvania, but I think maybe if I had done like progressively building the map, it may have felt more that way to me.
It will, yeah. Because I played it that way, and it felt like a Metroidvania to me. The only thing that was missing was it didn't have the Vania part where I was leveling up, but that's fine. Like, you get enough health upgrades and things in this game where it never bothered me.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a weird component that I think sometimes when I feel like Metroidvania is when they're just like beat up enemies and you don't really level up that much. I'm like, I don't really feel like this is on the thing. I need those little numbers going up above the head like they do in the Castlevanias. I like that one more.
Same.
And I think you were smart for putting the combat on easy, because Kryptonite, they did a lot of DS games for like superhero properties. Like they did one for X-Men Origins, Captain America, Iron Man 2, and the original Web of Shadows. And something I like towards the end of this, because I will call it the Kryptonite bullshit. Because in those games and all the other ones, they just lock you in rooms and they just throw enemies at you, and it goes on forever. And this doesn't really have that until the very end, when they like feel the need, like it's their trademark, which is a terrible trademark to have. Like the end section with Mysterio, I was miserable because I just forgot how bad it was. But like for the start, for the most of it, it's just like, oh yeah, there's enemies here and you can fight them if you want. But I actually like not having to grind. I can just kind of move about and just like fight them if I want to, but otherwise I can just swing around.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that though, when I can swing around and I don't have to engage in combat, I'm like, well, what's the point of these guys here? Because, I just skip them. And I do that a lot in the Zelda games too. I just run by, like, oh, this is not going to help me at all. So I just run by.
I fought most people at first, but then like the same with you, as the game progressed after a while, I just, especially in the last part of the game that Blair's talking about, I skipped everybody I could. Right,
except for that one room that like trapped me in there with them.
Yeah, when they made me fight. But I mean, I never got bored of the combat as much as I didn't at all in this game, which is weird for me in a game where I'm not getting anything for it because I'm not getting experience. I never got bored fighting.
This is a surprisingly good Spider-Man combat. And Blair, and I know you wrote a book on Spider-Man in video games, so you probably could elucidate more of this. But this one, like, it has juggling. It has like powers where you like can throw them up in the air and then press the A button, and then you'll bring the web to you and then slam them to the ground, kind of like the PS4 game. Like, there's a lot to do with Spider-Man because all I want in combat is to look cool. And I feel like this feels and looks cool. I guess my baseline is Spider-Man 2 for the original Game Boy, which is terrible. Also has Mysterio as the bad guy. And so this one just felt really good. The combat feels fun. I like disarming opponents and throwing their guns back at them. It's a cool combat system for a 2D game.
Yeah, I really love the Boomerang 2090 or the Boomerang Noir boss fight where you kind of have to like catch him and throw it back at him.
Yeah,
nice. Yeah,
there's a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, you also get a lot of different abilities. It's like because as I was exploring the whole map, I found a lot of cool abilities that help with combat that he would get. Like I had an ability where when I would grab their gun, I think their gun would blow up when I threw it back at him. Or am I thinking of the wrong game? Can't. I played a lot. I played another Spider-Man game because I played this, which I shouldn't have.
Some of them had explosives.
Okay. Like, I enjoyed it. Like, I thought it was cool exploring it, and you get the different... And it does a decent Metroidvania job of giving you a new ability. Okay, now go back and use this ability.
Right.
It wasn't... There were a couple parts where I got really confused, and I had to look online what to do. But... And there's not very many videos, by the way, of this game. So, there's not a lot of content if you're trying to figure out what to do. Like, there's, like, one Let's Play video I found that told me what to do. Because he 100%ed it in the Let's Play. But there's not much.
Yeah, there was one guy I got real scared of because I followed his long play and was like, oh, because I could not figure out how to get on some jump. And it was like, oh, you got to use Amazing Spider-Man to glide. And I'm like,
yes, I got stuck too.
I don't have the glide. I'm not going to redo this. Do I have to backpedal or backtrack? And then I just figured out somehow I was able to jump across the thing. So.
Oh, you're talking about the ending with Mysterio?
There's some part in Mysterio's world near the end where there's like a jump that's really weird and hard. And like all the long play video I had, he's like, I just glided over it. And I'm like, yeah, I just jumped over it somehow. I don't know how.
That's impressive because I got to that point. I got stuck. I looked up a video. I saw him glide. So I had to run all the way out of Mysterio's world, backtrack to Amazing. And there was one one upgrade I just didn't go for because it used that stupid running move I didn't like. Yeah, and I went and got it, and that's when you get the glide.
That's what I was going to say. One thing, because this game wears its Metroid influence on its sleeve. And even you get a move that is the speed boost from Metroid. And one of for this playthrough, I didn't get all the things. I have all of them are amazing, and I didn't do in 2099 because I know there's a really hard chain you have to do.
You want me to? I can describe it to you.
Where you have to run up a wall and then hit A to kind of use your web line to move around the corner. But there's a puzzle in Mysterio's level where you have to do this. And I was beating my brains at it for forever, just trying to get like the right jump at the right angle. And that was the only time I really beat my head against the wall. And a little bit more Mysterio, but that's because I didn't go back to Noir and kind of get all the power-ups, but that's just me kind of rushing through it for the show.
I know the feeling. No, I had no. Did you play it on easy too, or did you play on normal for the?
I think
combat?
I played on normal.
Okay.
And I just did everything in amazing, and then I wasn't having that much trouble, so I was like, there's a bunch of stuff in Noir because I finished this before. Like I reviewed it for my site. I had to play it again for the book. And I was just like, okay, I'm also kind of playing Sonic Frontiers and a few other things. I just like kind of wanted to fly through it, but then I got to Mysterio and then I just got my butt handed to me because I just didn't get the extra health and defense power-ups. But like, I mean, most of them aren't that hard to find except for that one in 2099.
Yeah, that one is okay. So what you have to do is you have to speed run. You run up a wall, run across the ceiling, then you have to do that like jumping you're talking about. You have to do like 3 times around 3 different corners to keep speed and not lose it, so then you can get one upgrade. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think you need to get so much momentum to even get the speed upgrade started. That's what's like. It's like, I mean, I could if you send me the back of this, I could try it again. It's the like 15-second lead up to get that fast. It's probably only 5 to 10, but I don't like that part of redoing that part and like running all the way back to start over. And that's what demoralized me from all those challenges.
Save state in when I finally did it. I save stated in certain spots so I could just keep trying to parts I messed up on and not have to do that. And that's all I did.
Makes sense.
It's fucking ridiculous. It's completely optional. So like, you know, it's not against the game, but it is like if you're going. I was just going for 100% for some weird reason. It was really fucking hard.
I played this on my launch 3DS, and like by Monday night when I turned it off, I was like, my arm kind of hurts, and why I really like wide handheld like the Switch now.
Right. I play this on a PC, so
yeah, I played it. I had this on DS. I had the cartridge. I also have it like on an R4 multi-cart kind of thing, and then I also have it. And then I just was playing it on my phone because I wanted to try it with one of those backbone controllers that goes around the phone.
That looked cool.
It was fun. It was nice to play that way. So
I also have it the same way you did it, where I have the map screen on the right side and the left side is the screen, because I find that easier for DS games when I play on my computer. Because I don't have many.
I've seen those folding phones that apparently have good DS emulation now.
That's the reason I want one.
I know. It's kind of the only reason I want one too.
I remember I made a comment with my wife, but I kind of want to buy just to emulate DS. She's like, you're going to spend $800 on a phone to emulate DS. And I'm like,
yes.
No, but I want to. Because I would also need to hook a controller up to it too. I'd have to do a whole bunch of stuff. It'd be like just a DS. It'd just be just a DS emulator. Like,
I know, right?
So no, I can't.
I'm sure they could make a flip grip for a phone for DS emulation, because the Androids have pretty good DS emulation now.
Oh yeah, Androids are great for emulation. I can't get over that. This is what inspired Spider-Verse. Like, I also can't get over how Noir Spider-Man was that little of a character before this game.
Yeah, well, and that's the funny thing is, like, comics wasn't really doing anything with them, but like other mediums like video games and movies were like, yes, 100%, we get this concept. Throw him in, he will be great. And he's also good as like depowered, because he doesn't. I don't think in the comics he has all the powers. No, I can't remember if he has. I don't think he has webs.
It's like a gun or something.
It might be that, because if you watch the Spider-Verse movie, he flies different than other people. And similarly, like Miles Morales doesn't create his own webs. He has to get them from another universe's Peter to be able to use webs. And that's in comics too. Like, I don't think he never had webs for the first like 15 issues until he met Peter Parker from another universe. So.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I thought Aunt May gave it to him.
In the movie, yeah, she did. I guess it was the same Peter.
In the comics too.
I think he got him in Spider-Man, is what I think, when 616 Peter met him.
Yeah.
I never read any.
I read all those comics, but it's been a hot minute. So
yeah.
No, I mean, I think this game does a good job of having you explore and to learn and enjoy it, and especially in the beginning part of the game, or for most part of the game until you're just 100%ing it. It does a good job of switching up the Spider-Man. So you go from having one character, then you go to another, then you switch back at a decent pace where you don't. I never got bored of this game.
Yeah.
Until even in the end, I wasn't bored. I was having a really good time with this game.
I have a question though, in terms of like the Metroidvania aspects of it. Are Noir 2099 and Amazing Spider-Man all going through the same area in different time periods, or are they completely different worlds?
It's hard because I think in the opening narration, like Madam Web says, a future that may not come to pass, because in Because in Shattered Dimensions, it's kind of like different universes, but then a year later, there was Edge of Time, where the timelines were linked because things you did in the past affected the future.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, because that's what I was trying to think of. Like, was it like, like Link to the Past, where the Dark World and the Light World are kind of similar but slightly different, or like Eternal Darkness, where you're going through the same like underground tomb, but in 1914 versus 1970 versus 1000 AD or something. It's the same like layout, but like it's been overgrown or turned into a factory. I couldn't tell if it was the same world. And I don't think it is.
I don't think it is.
There is an Edge of Time game for DS that kind of does that.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually, I think, developed either in this province where I live in Newfoundland or Prince Edward Islands. It's not very good, but it has more bosses than Edge of Time. It's just, again, it's like Web of Shadows. It just has a very confusing map.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I have the
do want to
3DS. Sorry.
play those.
I have the 3DS Edge of Time, which is in 3D.
It's literally just a console game. It's shocking.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's
because they did Wii down, because Shattered Dimensions and Edge of Time on Wii were just, I think, graphical downgrades. Is like for the Wii, they would often do a different game, but I guess they just did a port down of the Wii version for the 3DS.
That's crazy. That's insane.
Oh,
and that one only has 2099 in Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes, and that's why I got so much hate. And like, I actually have never played it. I own it on 360 and PS3, I think. But because of all the hate it got, I never actually got around to really playing it. I tried it once and didn't stick with it. And I love 2099 Spider-Man, so I need to get back to it.
Yes, I think 2099 in this game and Shattered Dimensions are not a good representation of 2099.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not like a wisecracking Spider-Man. And in Edge of Time, he's a no-nonsense Spider-Man, and he's great. And they kind of switched the voices there, where Christopher Daniel Barnes is Miguel, and he's fantastic. Edge of Time it's repetitive, but it has a really great story.
Okay, I might. The only reason I haven't put these on the show is because they're hard to get a hold of. Mm-hmm. You can't buy them on PC.
Yeah.
And you can't really emulate 360. I mean, you can, but most people I know aren't going to be able to emulate 360, or me.
Yeah.
I mean, I can play it on my 360, but that's a whole. I just don't like ask people. That's the one reason I haven't done it. And I don't want to play on 360. So
because licensed games are taken off of digital storefronts often, and then because of that, the retail versions get a little more expensive. So they're hard to acquire these days.
Yeah,
and all the Spider-Man games are tough to find.
Because once upon a time, they were produced so many of these that they would be dirt cheap. Like you could buy like Iron Man and Shattered Dimensions for like $10, $15 at GameStop. And now, because they're out of print and Marvel is so huge and people are wanting to go back to these games, like I had a spare copy of Shattered Dimensions. I had it on PS3 and I gave it to my friend Diego because the PS3 version was like $100. And I was like, this is insane. This is a game they couldn't give away once upon a time.
Uh-huh.
But hey, supply and demand, when you make something no longer accessible, hey, people want to pay for it.
Yeah,
I guess.
And then people get ahead of it, like, oh, they're gonna definitely do this. So like Ninja Turtles by Platinum for PS4 is like expensive as a result.
Oh, I have that game.
I think it's expensive.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Any game that's over $30 is expensive to me.
Yes, I'm the same way. I'm a cheap bastard. So no, that's one reason. Like I don't like licensed games. I mean, there's some really great. Like this is an example of a great little licensed game that people don't know about. I mean, it's not something that I only knew about it because of Mike, and I would have never played this, but. The only reason why this is on the show because I knew Blair. I'm like, I know Blair will talk about this with me, so that's how this started. But no, it's a $29.9 the North stuff. I think it's all good. I want to talk about the bosses because I'm a big Spider-Man fan of like not enough to read comics, but I'm a fan of like the cartoons and the movies and stuff like that. And I enjoyed like seeing the other versions of characters I know in this. Like in the game starts out, you have Mysterio in Amazing, and then you go on to fight Boomerang in Nor, which. I was just funny because Boomerang is a character you don't even really like. Nobody even talks about in general, and all of a sudden here's a Nor version of him. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool.
See, Boomerang is great because he is the leader of the Superior Foes of Spider-Man, which is one of the greatest comics I've ever read. What I love about this is that, like, not only is the voice cast shuffled around, but all the bosses of this are completely unique to this version because in the console game, it was Electro Ultimate, and now it's just Amazing Electro. And then I love they have Silvermane in the 2099 universe, but it's actually just Silvermane from the Amazing Universe because he's just in a robot body and he just lived that long, which I thought was a really great touch.
I don't even know who Silvermane even is.
He's a gangster in a robot body.
Oh, okay.
Did you play Spider-Man, the new Insomniac Spider-Man?
Yes, but I never played the DLC, and it's been a little while.
Because they kind of do that with Hammerhead, and he looks like Walt Disney from Robot Chicken. It's so ridiculous, where that should have been Silvermane. But yeah, it's like Silvermane is... He was on the cartoon, but he became...
He's in the 90s cartoon, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but he never became a robot.
I need to play, because after I played this game, but before we record this episode, I beat Spider-Man Miles Morales too. But I really need to do the DLC of the Amazing Spider-Man game. I have it. I just never played it.
It's not that great.
Okay.
And they doubled down on Screwball, which is not... That makes it even worse.
One day I'll play them all. I really enjoyed Miles Morales though.
Yeah, it's worth playing. Just put your expectations in check.
There won't be any expectations, so it'll be okay. It'll just be I want to play more Spider-Man. This game really got me in the mood for more Spider-Man too. Like this game really did that, which is not something that happens to me all the time.
Yeah, I mean, after playing this, I was like, man, I want to go play that PS2 Ultimate Spider-Man game I never played.
That's a good game.
Is it?
Yeah.
And there were so many Activision Spider-Man games. They were like annual that like I kind of like lost track of them by this point.
Yeah. And hey, guess what? They're all expensive now.
Yeah.
There was one every year except for 2003 and 2009. There was at least one.
Wow.
I miss that. I miss stuff. I mean, even though a lot of those games are bad, they're fun to like. I remember being so excited when the Marvel movies are coming out. Like, oh, I can't wait to play more Marvel games. Like, just because I enjoyed those, like the fact that they had, like, I enjoyed Iron Man 1, I enjoyed Captain America, then they were just gone. I was like, oh, damn it. I wanted Avengers 1 or other stuff that could have came down the road, but the licensed games really have to stop because games are too expensive.
Yeah.
So, I get it. Like, this game, I hope wasn't too expensive to make because.
But see, now we have fewer, but the quality is, well, Gotham Knights notwithstanding, because I didn't really care for
Gotham
that.
Knights.
Yeah, I should stop bragging on Gotham Knights.
Oh, you're fine. I think it's funny.
Tried. But yeah, like Marvel in the past couple of years, you've had Spider-Man, the Miles Morales, Ultimate Alliance 3, Guardians of the Galaxy, Midnight Suns. Like when the weakest link is Marvel's Avengers, and even that is okay to an extent, we're eating pretty well right now. And then you have Spider-Man 2 around the corner, and Wolverine, and who knows what else. Oh, Captain America and Black Panther and Iron Man from EA Motive, from a producer of Guardians of the Galaxy. And then, I mean, this is crazy.
Oh, one of the other bosses in this game that I did not recognize at all, 'cause I didn't know Silvermane either, but isn't like Voodoo one of the bosses in Noir or something?
Calypso.
I don't know who Calypso is.
I know her mostly from the cartoon where she was linked with Kraven the Hunter, but I think she has a different story in the comics.
Okay, but it was cool to have characters like. I mean, I found it interesting that to hear this, this game had random bosses that I didn't even know the characters. I'm like, that's impressive to me as a guy who, I'm not a big comic book guy, but I read comics. I play Marvel Snap way too much. I'm in that ecosystem enough that I know who characters are, even if I don't read comics. I still am aware of most characters. And there's a character I was not aware of at all. I'm like, okay, that's impressive. Like you had you random ass character in this game that I don't even know who the hell they are.
Yeah, and I don't even know how much she's like even in. I'm looking her up now just to see where she appeared. She was created for Shattered Dimensions because this version of it. Like, I mean, Calypso existed,
I know, the Noir stuff, I know that, like, there's not enough of it, like, they had to make
But that's what's fun about it, and that's what I think the Noir universe, like, hinted at, was, like, we're gonna give you all these, like, this is why I like multiverses, like, we're gonna give you all these classic characters, but then they're gonna be in, like, a 30s pulp, the Shadow kind of form. So she was a fun character, because they did have, like, a lot of those type of styles of, 30s had a lot of styles of, like, those kind of characters.
And, like, Boomerang almost has, like, a Confederate hat.
Yeah. I can see that, yeah.
And I kind of noticed I didn't have the sound up very high. They got Jennifer Hale for Noir Calypso. Like they paid Jennifer Hale for like 3 lines. Like that's insane.
I wonder if they're just reusing lines from the other version of the game, but
Calypso wasn't in the other version.
She wasn't? Oh my gosh, okay.
No, the other version is Carnage, Sandman, Kraven. I don't even remember who else is in it, but
so in Amazing it was Kraven, Sandman, Juggernaut. Ultimate was Electro, Deadpool, and Carnage. Noir was Hammerhead, Vulture, and Green Goblin. And 2099 was Scorpion, Hobgoblin, and I can't remember the last one.
No, that's okay.
Because Hobgoblin 2099 was a new creation.
Oh, that's cool.
Really?
Yeah, well, it's actually just ended up somehow on the season for June, by the way. So Shattered Dimension. So if you want to talk about that one, we'll be doing that now because I want to cover it now. So, but the another thing about this game, like you fight the Tinkerer as one of the Amazing Spider-Man bosses, and I found that funny. I'm like, really, the Tinkerer, a guy that like I didn't even know of really. Like I knew of him, I think, and then I also played Miles Morales like the day after I beat this, and I'm like, 2 games I played the Tinkerer. That's interesting.
Yeah, Tinkerer is also in Homecoming, the first Tom Holland movie. Is one of Michael Keaton's just guys that like works on his systems and stuff.
Oh yeah, that doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's also in the background of the Super Nintendo game based on the animated series.
Oh, really?
He's just kind of in the background, and you walk by, and he's kind of looking at you. And it's Doc Ock 2099 was the last one for Shattered Dimensions.
Okay. Who else do you fight in this game? Oh, you fight Vulture in 2099 in this game, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, he's in the comics.
Yeah.
Okay. I like Vulture, just not I don't like the regular version of Amazing, but I like other versions of Vulture. Who else did you fight in this game? Am I missing any bosses in this game?
Now that you're going through it, like there's not a lot of what I would think of classic Spider-Man villains in here. Was there a goblin? I don't think so.
No, there's no goblin. Which I'm 100% okay with that. Much as I say, like I said this on Batman before, I'm tired of the Joker with Batman. I'm kind of tired of the Goblin with Spider-Man. Like, he has so many other villains, use other villains sometimes. Like, I get it, but...
You say that, but there's shockingly little games where Green Goblin is the villain. I've actually did an article about it, like, because in the 90s, Green Goblin was out of the picture, so he wasn't in many games except for the import one.
Never mind, then. Maybe I'm thinking of the movies more, but not that many movies. I don't know what I'm talking about then.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. You think of him as like the big villain, but like basically for Spider-Man comics, he was off the table after like 72 or 3 after Norman Osborn died, issue like 123, I think. When Gwen Stacy died, he died. And then Hobgoblin was around in the 80s, and that's why Hobgoblin was more focused in the 90s cartoon. Yeah. And then Harry, his son, became the Green Goblin, I think, in the 80s and late 80s, early 90s, maybe earlier. And then he died also, and then they had to bring back something big for the Clone Saga in 97, and that's when Norman Osborn came back from the dead. But other than that, like Green Goblin was pretty much off the table for 25 years.
Oh, okay. Never mind what I'm saying then. Okay.
And then, I mean, he's not in the PS4 game. They hinted Norman Osborn. Norman Osborn's like the mayor.
Yeah, he's going to be in the sequel, though, for sure.
I think they're building him up for either this one or... Because the way I think the trajectory is going to be, he's going to be the final guy in 3, or they're going to go Superior, which I would be happy with either way.
The PS4 game hinted at Venom, too, didn't it?
Oh, Venom is in the sequel.
And Miles Morales.
Tony Todd.
Oh, nice. Candyman?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's 100%. The game.
Oh, Candyman is playing Venom? I'm going to have to tell my wife. Flippin' love that.
No, I was just really like... Okay, any other bosses we missed in this game besides Mysterio you fight?
Yeah, Mysterio, I think, is the only one we haven't talked about. I actually love how much... So this wears its Castlevania Metroid love so much on his sleeve that Mysterio almost functions like a Dracula fight, where he's like teleporting around the screen. I was like, this is essentially Dracula. And that actually gave me a little bit of trouble, for this playthrough, because I didn't power up, but like the arena is too big, so he would teleport off screen and just hit me with some energy ball because I just couldn't see it coming. And that was a pain in the butt. I know there's like a dodge maneuver, but like I didn't really have to use it that much.
Yeah.
I mean, I dodge sometimes.
Yeah, I just went fast and I was playing friendly, so he did give me the most trouble. I think he's the only only boss I died on, so he was in that way. But to your point, like this game is also like the level. It runs into the problem sometimes I have with 2D platforms where the world is too big sometimes, and I'm making a lot of like blind jumps. And Mike, I think you noted this game has an escape sequence.
Yes.
Like Metroid. And that game, I also died there. That's the only other time
I died a few times. That was hard.
Yeah. I escaped with 10 seconds left, and I felt like I was really cruising. But like I went down like the wrong direction or something and just got lost. And that's the one place you don't have a map.
And I used save states, and I still had a hard time. And I was like, okay, I did this part perfectly. All right, save. And I still, like the first time I fucked up. The second time I think I got it, or the third time. But yeah, I fucked up bad the first time. They did not give you enough. They did not give you a lot of time.
No. Compared to Metroids and stuff now. And also not clear as to where you're going, because it looked like you had like 2 different ways you could go.
Yeah.
It didn't funnel you right.
I just thought it was just hilarious that the game ends like a Metroid and has an escape sequence like every Metroid game. I also played this not that long after I played Metroid Dread. I thought that was funny too, for me personally. No, I mean, it's such an interesting game, and it makes me sad that it's completely locked away in licensing and on the DS. And it makes me sad that more people won't experience this game. And I'm hoping that people listen to this episode will be like, okay, like, hey, there's ways that emulate DS. Like, they're never going to re-release this game. So if you don't want to go buy a cartridge, go, play it, find different ways to play it.
So Jeff Bezos sold me a 200 and something one cartridge. There's a lot of them on Jeff Bezos's website that you can buy, and most of them have this game. So you can just acquire it that way and play it on original hardware. It works great. Me and my son did that.
And that's what I not so much the Wii era, but I really miss Nintendo DS era Nintendo, because the games were so cheap and the install base was so big that everyone wanted to be on it. Like, there's a Ninja Gaiden game on DS that you play it like you're holding a book, and it's all touch control, and it works great. And like, BioWare is like, we're just going to do a Sonic the Hedgehog RPG. And Rockstar is like, we're going to do a Grand Theft Auto game. But because the hardware is so unique, it's so hard to bring those games back. Like, they did Mega Man ZX and ZX Advent on the Zero collection. And like, they have to kind of split the screen in weird ways. And it's not they did their best, but it's very clumsy. And that's the same thing like with Mario Galaxy on the 3D All-Stars, where like, I don't know how you play that on a Switch Lite. Like, it's it must be impossible, or like you just must have to smudge the screen with your hands.
Yeah,
just trying to collect Starbit.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I think that's what I've heard is that's why Mario Galaxy 2 isn't in that collection, is because Yoshi just added an extra layer of complication that just is crazy for a handheld for Switch. I'm sure you can do button mapping and figure it out, but
they didn't want
his tongue. I think his tongue was the pointer on the Wii, I think.
Oh, this game is cheap, by the way, on eBay. If you wanted a copy of it, it's like $20.
Yeah.
So that's not that bad. Okay.
No, it was pretty cheap when I bought it in 2017. So yeah, this one reasonably people haven't figured out that this is buried treasure yet. But get on it before all of Mike's fans buy it all.
But if you want the PS3 version, that's like $70. So that's not cheap.
But not advocating for piracy, but nobody from Beanox will get your money if you buy it that way. So.
Well, I mean, my whole thing. I mean, when it comes to emulation, if a game like this is a licensed game that will more than likely never be released, and you can't it is different. I have a different thing when it comes to stuff.
I can give the devs money, that's pretty much my line.
Yeah, by eBay, you're not giving anybody money. Just a guy that had a copy.
Beanox probably never got that much money when they made it, so and that's what people were hoping. And I mean, it's pie in the sky thinking, and that way, if the Microsoft Activision deal actually goes through, then they'll actually start like digging through some of this. But I mean, it's more tangly, because it's like, okay, well, Sony's in bed with Marvel for Spider-Man, so are they then going to strike another deal with Microsoft so they can like re-release? Like, I would love it if Shattered Dimensions and Edge of Time and Spider-Man PS1 just shows up on Game Pass. That would be incredible. My job, I'd be like Thanos. I can just like rest after this. Who needs comic book video games anymore? But I mean, the licensing and who has those codes and everything like that.
Then vocal performances. I don't know if you have to like relicense that or pay.
You do.
Once.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I mean, that's why like a game like this that I feel like people should really experience. If you like Metroidvanias, like this is a game that you really should play, in my opinion. I mean, it's simple, and I had an amazing time in this little game. Like, and so many people won't ever experience it because it's locked on the DS and it's never getting re-released.
The one thing I know you didn't have an amazing time with was the tacked-on touchscreen stuff.
Okay, we haven't talked about that yet. That was the one bad thing, in my opinion, about this game.
Yes.
I agree, especially when it comes to backtracking, because even if you go into a world and you're like, crap, I didn't mean to go back here, you have to go back and do it again.
Yeah.
Right. So there's it's in order to warp between the three different timelines, you have to do this touchscreen challenge where it's just poking at things trying to attack your thing in the middle, but it's very, very sensitive that like you also have to make sure that it's spinning, and if it slows down, it immediately depletes, and it takes like, I would say, at least like 1.5 to 2 minutes to fully charge up, and you can lose all your progress like really quickly. Even if nothing hits you, if you just like don't
if you let it
spin
stop.
Yeah, but also touching it might slow it down because you're trying to make it spin.
Yes.
Things I've discovered.
It's the one bad thing about a very good little game, and I get why it's there, so I can't argue with it. I can't be like, well, I'm sure that at the time it was kind of mandatory you had something to do with the DS.
It's still like 09, 2010. It seems late, as Blair had said. It's like, that seems late to just be like, just give them a Metroidvania. You don't need to put touchscreen stuff on here.
Yeah, as they were starting to, because someone on Twitter the other day brought up, how much in Bison dollars, I think, perhaps. I can't remember who it was. It's one of my favorite Twitter accounts, where they calculate everything in Bison dollars from the Street Fighter movie. That they didn't know there was a DS version of Diddy Kong Racing. And it's such a huge bummer because I love that game. And that game is filled with touchscreen nonsense. Like, you have to blow into the microphone to spin the propellers of the hovercraft to get a boost.
What?
And they took out the silver coin challenges for these games where you're flying on a magic carpet and you have to tap stuff. It's you have a perfectly good game. All you had to do was take out Banjo and Conquer, because you don't own those anymore, and put new characters in it and call it a day. And that was early DS. But then as the years went on, it was okay, well, there are touch games, but then there's also things where it's just the touchscreen is just a map. And it's fine that it's just a map. And for this to be in 2010, because even Wii games were moving away from motion control. So many games are just and just plug in a GameCube controller. You want to play GoldenEye with a GameCube controller? Fine, go do that.
Yeah, so it's very weird. And it doesn't innovate or change, as the game goes on. There's not new things to click on. In the touchscreen thing, it's the exact same thing every time. And so it really discouraged backtracking because I got one point, I'm I could go back and get that Spider-Man glide, but I'm not doing that spinny challenge ever again. Because I did spin literally 30 minutes one night and taught my 4-year-old some choice words that she's not using too much. So,
I made sure I did.
Then I was just wait a second, I have save states here. Why am I? Well, one, I think I texted y'all and I'm am I doing this wrong? And y'all were no. And so then that's when I finally just save stated and was able to get through that. It's the only time I used save states in the entire game was to get through this little challenge. Which any other thing, if you're going to inverted castles in Castlevania, Light World, Dark World, it's just a button press. So I thought it was a bit much.
Yeah, you don't really need to. I didn't use save states much in this game, other than those stupid things I did, just because I didn't want to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But that was that's a personal thing where they were just pissing me off, and I'm well, because I would do. And then I was just trying to beat the game. But no, you don't need to. On easy and the difficulty I played on, you didn't really need that, which was nice.
Yeah. The only other things I really don't love about the game, as we talked about the combat, I talked a little about how the world seems a little big, is I don't get a very good sense of place for it, which I like in my Metroidvanias. The villains, I feel every time I retraverse the same area, change. They're not the same enemies, because I'm used to when I'm oh, this is the polar bear room. This is the room with the things that fly from the sky in Metroid. And then usually about halfway through the level, they change. But every time I went through these same areas, the enemies changed. So I never got a sense oh, I'm in that room. And everything kind of looked the same. So I didn't ever feel I'm going through, the clockwork room, or I'm going through this. It just all felt like factories and warehouses to me. So I didn't like that part of the game. But that's a minor quibble.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any quibbles, actually, other than the stupid, than the one thing. I
get that. But then I also, what I was thinking about, because you're bringing up the Metroid Dread episode and fighting, is that, in Metroid Dread, it felt like every minor enemy is a challenge I have to parry, and in this, I just love being able to ignore most of them.
Right.
So just I don't want to deal with this guy right now. I'm just going to swing by, and I just love you can swing by and it does damage. So it's just oh yeah, I'm hitting these guys, and yeah, I'm just going to run on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I had no problem with it. All right, anything else you guys want to say before we go to Shelf Stacker Box?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I enjoyed it, though. Oh, and it does have a spider ball. I remember thinking oh, this is very much like Metroid 2 for gameplay. It doesn't have a spider ball, but you are crawling on the ceilings and stuff and doing challenges. I'm yeah, I very much feel like a Metroid here right now.
Yeah, so you unlock it midway through. All right, and that'll bring us to Shelf Stacker Box. And I'm going to edit it out. My audio sounds fine, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. My thing popped up and said, do you want to connect your controller? I'm no. So I just want to make sure. Okay. That's all be edited out. All right, and I'll go first. So I'm a big fan of Metroidvania, as I said on the show many times. I enjoyed it. This is a simple Metroidvania. It's not a big game. It's not super complicated. But it was fun. It was a fun little 3D, not 3D. It was a fun little DS game that, something I never played before that kept me interested. It gave me the Metroidvania vibe, and it didn't piss me off. Alien Isolation. And It was not isolation. Alien. What the fuck is that called? Infestation. Yes, we did an episode on it a long fucking time ago with a different cast. But yes, I mean, it's a really good little Metroidvania game, and I had a great time. You can beat it in a day. It's going on the shelf, and I'm so happy I finally got to experience it. So, what about you, Vincent?
I'm gonna stack it. I didn't love it. I thought it was a good Spider-Man 2D platformer. I think my sense of place issues kind of still are there. I'm like, I don't really like I don't feel like I'm going, from different area to different area, backtracking that much. And that may have been because I didn't do the map right. But it is a dramatic improvement over my first Spider-Man game, the Game Boy one, which had web depletion. You could run out of web, and I never was able to beat the first level of the game ever until I got a Game Genie. So this is definitely the best Spider-Man portable game I've ever played.
Okay.
But I'll stack it.
Okay. And what about you, Blair?
I'm going to put this on the shelf. I don't think it's perfect, but I think that comes down to the time and the budget. Because when this game came out, it probably wasn't any more than $29.99. And this is in Canada because that's what DS software was selling for. But what they accomplished with very little is great. And they could have just, did an action side-scrolling game like a lot of Kryptonite titles. But the fact that they, tried the Metroid thing with Web of Shadows and kind of looked at the faults and then fixed it for this one, it's like I just wish that more people could play it, or that someone would maybe even try to do it again as like a smaller title or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always been interested in like the idea of Metroidvania games, because there's or like specifically of superheroes, because I think there's Batman Arkham Asylum Blackgate.
Yes.
Which
Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate, yeah.
Yeah, which was I don't think is good, but I think it was marketed to me as like it's from people who made Metroid Prime, making an Arkham game, but and I don't think it's fully 2D. And I'm
It's
like, okay, that
2.5.
sounds because Asylum's kind of like a Metroidvania. I'm like, that sounds great. Let's do this 100%. This sounds like absolutely something I'd be interested in. And then I heard that wasn't good, and I'm like,
It's okay. It's worth a play. It's on PS Vita, 3DS, PC. It's on everything. It's worth a play.
Yeah. They did a deluxe version for consoles. That was in the early days of the 3DS. Like, I don't think the software was selling what they thought. So you saw a lot of like Lords of Shadow, Mirror of Fate came to consoles, and Arkham Origins Blackgate came to consoles, Resident Evil Revelations, stuff like that.
It's definitely worth a playthrough. I mean, we did it for the show, me, Blair, and Kenneth. It's not a great game, but it's definitely worth playing.
Yeah. So Blair, where do you feel this one falls on all the DS Spider-Man games?
On the DS, I would say it's the best. I really like Spider-Man 3, because that's kind of a 2D open world game, and it's a little like it's weird. It's interesting how it controls, because it's like it's 2D, but as you kind of swing around, there's kind of like some perspective switching, and like New York is kind of broken up into zones, and the only like you use the D-pad to use Spider-Man if you're right-handed, use the face buttons if you're left-handed. And everything else is done, like combat is done with a touchscreen. Ultimate Spider-Man's pretty good. I don't really like Spider-Man 2 or Friend or Foe or Edge of Time. Amazing Spider-Man on the DS, the less the better. That was just that didn't need to happen.
Oh, wow. In like 2012, the Garfield movie?
Yeah, it's from the people who made Edge of Time. It's like an hour and a half or like an hour. It's really short.
Okay, hey, that could be a perfect mini episode.
Maybe.
I like Amazing Spider-Man a lot. I like the game. I think is pretty good for the console version. Is good.
The 3DS version's pretty cool because it's like levels, but they're still in 3D.
So the Spider-Man 2 version, is that game all played with a touchscreen? From what I'm seeing,
Spider-Man 3 is. Spider-Man 2 isn't. Like you can switch between moves.
Okay,
but it's mostly just like a clumsy 2D game. Actually, fun fact, Brian Intar, who was a creative director on Marvel Spider-Man, reviewed that game for EGM and gave it like a 4 out of 10. He was not kind.
Okay.
So I guess he got to put his money where his mouth is.
Yeah, because I kind of want to play more. I'm trying to play more DS games because there's so many DS games I missed because I didn't have it. I had a DS, but I really didn't do anything with it because of the timing of my life, and I just didn't have money, and I've never got around to it yet. So I'm trying to fix that and play more when the opportunity presents itself.
I have 3 words for you. Elite Beat Agents.
Oh, I don't like rhythm stuff. That's music. Come on.
Oh, it's so good.
I played it before, actually. I don't like it. I might have to play this Ultimate Spider-Man game, though, for DS now. Is it?
I like Ultimate Spider-Man. Because Spider-Man controls kind of like with the face buttons with Venom. Like you kind of use like his tentacles and things with a touchscreen.
Oh, cool.
And it works shockingly well.
Okay, you guys might get a message at some point about that. Okay. And if you want to hear us talk about more Spider-Man, we have not done enough Spider-Man on the show, by the way. I'm realizing whenever I look it up and go, man, there's only 6 episodes. We did Amazing Spider-Man, film 34, Spider-Man Far From Home, MCU film 23, Spider-Man 2000, Blair's first episode, episode 131, Spider-Man Homecoming, MCU film 16, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, film 9, and Spider-Man episode 26, when we cover the Genesis game.
Okay.
So, God, that's not enough. That is not a lot of Spider-Man games, in my opinion, or Spider-Man stuff in general. You think I would have done in the show? Okay. Yeah. So, Blair, where can people find you at?
You can find me at comicbookvideogames.com, where you can read my review of Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions on the DS. You can also read my book, The Web of Spider-Man Games, The Amazing and the Not So Spectacular, the new Turbo Edition, which is available on the Amazon Kindle platform. And like Mike said at the top, if you search for Buried Treasure, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions DS, you'll probably get my video for the Electric Playground. And while you're there, go watch all the other Electric Playground content, because it's great.
And Vincent.
Yeah, you can find me on the Some of My Friends Read Comics podcast. We are a comic book club. We cover a monumental or interesting comic every other week. Recently, we did Super Mario Manga, which is an interesting, weird read. It has content warnings from the author in it. It's insane. I highly recommend that. And actually, I'm gonna also plug Blair's book, The Avengers in Video Games, because I remember it's really, really good. I had a YouTube series called That Was the Game. And I always had a dream, I'm like, well, I should cover like all the Marvel games. I should do that. Or maybe I should do, like just maybe Marvel Phase 1, but that might be covered. So maybe I'll do the DS games, because that's interesting. Not many people on the internet have done that. And then so I'm doing research and I found Blair's book. This is before, and I was like, and you went like deep on like this Marvel superhero squad. And you're like, the DS version has Thanos on the cover, but he's not in the game. And I'm like, man, this dude went way deeper than I ever did. So,
well,
it's quite the book.
We brought up Thor earlier on the DS, and I got to speak to someone who made Thor on the DS, because I love that game. Mm-hmm. And then he mentions something I didn't even know. He's like, if you do this certain code, it's in the book, and I also did an article about it for Polygon, where you can play as Frog Thor.
Really?
Yeah. I can't remember the code. It's in the interview I got to do with him. But he was like, yeah, this is something that no one knows about. And I was like, oh, tell me more.
Okay. Damn it, now I want to play that too for a mini. Fucking A. Too much plans. Too many plans. All right. And if you enjoyed this episode, you can go find over 400 other episodes of the show that we have done. We do movies, comics, video games, TV season. Go check out our giant catalog of stuff. I also want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Has Free. You can follow her on TikTok. Also, if you enjoy the show, we do have a Patreon. If you want to support the show, we do have a Patreon poll every month. You can help support us. And if you give me more money, I will promote your item, podcast, YouTube, product, whatever you do. So definitely go check that out. And we have a Discord if you want to talk with us. You can join our Discord and chat with us. And want to give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker, does his own podcast, A Gamer Looks at 40. So definitely go talk with him and look at listen to his show. It's very well done. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. I think that's everything I need to say. So we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.